Victor vanishes, Abby's irate Mariah's a stool and Nick alarms Sharon after taking a pill. Today on Young and Restless, Nikki worries about Victor going mischief, Devon and Nate raise reservations about Lily's exposure, and Abby sets boundaries to cover her family. Claire ditched Holden. Kane forgave Phyllis and prayed Daniel to help save Lily. Devon runs into Nate at society and they catch up on Dom. Devon is relieved his son is doing great and seems to have had no trauma. There's a real chance Mariah could face his serious consequences and he's nervous about what that might look like. However, he's formally forgotten about it, if Dom was spooked. But the further time that goes by, the angrier he and Abby are getting. They love Mariah, but commodity has easily snapped and they don't know how far gone she is. She came to apologize and it sounded sincere, but she's not mentally whole. He still worries she's a trouble. Nate is surprised Mariah was indeed released so presto. Devon doubts the judge knows what they were doing. Easily, Mariah is still battling demons or slightly knows what she's doing, but now she's walking around. He doesn't suppose she intended to hurt his son, but she did play mind games with him and planned to take him to Mexico. It seems raptorial and doesn't suppose she should be transferred to a psychiatric sanitarium rather than captivity. Nate can't condemn him for feeling equivocal. He knows internal ails can make people do effects without realizing it. Devon keeps fussing about her running around free. Nate urges him not to get worked up and just be thankful his son is home safe. Devon notices they haven't heard from Lily for quite some time. They allowed. She was on gym time, but it's been weeks. Should they be bothered? Mariah and Christine go to the cafe in Chancellor Park. Mariah feels like being in public is a mistake. The council tells her it's not good to withdraw. Her customer is hysterical of seeing Tessa, Abby, or Devon. She doesn't suppose she can handle seeing them all move on without her. Justice is shocked when she explains she went to see Devon and Abby to apologize. Mariah adds Sharon went with her. Christine urges her to be careful not to do anything to undermine her case. Mariah demanded them to know she was sorry and Dom was no way in peril. The council explains taking responsibility undermined her whole legal strategy. She's pushing for a speedy trial and it's set for coming month. That seems like a long time to Mariah. Abby and Dom show up. He rushes over to talk to his hide-and-seek friend and is sorry for ruining their game. They were having fun until he got tired. She gets down on her knees and apologizes for keeping him down from his mema and pater. Before Mariah can go, Abby sends her sprat to a table and also interrogates Christine about letting her customer out in public like this. Abby complains that Mariah can't just be wandering around and running into unknowing children. They argue, but Abby isn't confident that Mariah doesn't pose a trouble. Nikki is thrilled to run into Noah at Crimson Lights. He wants to help support the family. They talk about the fight and wonder where Nick went off to. He and Sharon tell Nikki about all the pain Nick seems to be in. He lively ambles in. Sharon is shocked he seems to have suddenly recovered. Nick says he's feeling better. They talk about no bone. Knowing where Victor is. He's not responding to anyone. Nikki worries he's doing commodity dodgy. They talk about unthinkable Phyllis is. Nick tried to get through to her but she didn't feel to watch. Nikki thinks rapacity supersedes everything with her. Sharon and Nick try to condemn Kane, but Nikki is sure everything is down to Phyllis. Nick isn't sure he'll ever be suitable to forgive Phyllis. Indeed, if she's an amazing mama. She's been out of feathers since she was held hostage. He and Sharon both tried talk Phyllis out of this, but she ignored them. The power seems to have absolutely corrupted her. Nikki takes off and Nick explains he set up one of his pain capsules and now feels fine. Sharon quizzes him about his lozenge force and he insists he needs another round. When he starts shuddering again, Sharon asks if he's really okay. They notice his voice sounds off and suggest he take a nap. Nick says this is no time for naps. Once he heads out, Sharon tells her son commodity seems off with Nick. He wasn't acting like he just took a lozenge. At the estate, Victoria, Chelsea, and Adam wonder where Victor has faded to. Could this be connected to Phyllis dropping off the radar too? Victoria worries about how vulnerable her father is. He's on the point and it's dangerous. They need to stop their pater. Before he does commodity, the whole family could lament. Adam hopes his pater is able of restraint, but they all find that hard to imagine. Victoria announces she has plans for Phyllis and Billy. She's going to go after who they love. Chelsea isn't on board with hanging people, but Victoria says it'll draw Phyllis if they get her kiddies on their side. Once Adam and Chelsea leave, Nikki shows up and bothered to her son about Victor taking off. Victoria says that Phyllis has gone too. She explains she has a plan to get Summer on their side. Nikki has dubiety. Just watch me, Victoria says. Nikki is still dupeful, but Victoria is confident. At the GCAC, Adam stabs his potatoes with a chopstick, so Chelsea assumes he's upset about his father. He's confident in his father but upset about the deal he made with Lily. He worries about what he's willing to give up and who'll have to pay. She thinks he's jumping the gun. They presume. He's formally assuming that he'll be the one to get squinched when the verity comes out. Coming week on Y&R. Daniel Romalotti, Jr. I'll no way ever forgive you for this. Phyllis declares. We might have a lead on what happened to Lily, Devon tells Abby. We feel we should check it out, Nate adds. Yeah, of course. Do whatever it takes to keep the family safe, Abby says. Matt Clark is free. Nick asks. He's faded. Once he was released, he took off, Victor explains. That means he could be anywhere. He could be on this estate. How is this passing again? Nick asks. On the rearmost explosive occasion of the young and the restless, the citizens of Genoa City find themselves teetering on the edge of chaos as secrets consolidate, commitment fracture, and one important primogenitor vanishes without a trace. The hour opens with an turnabout of dread that no way relatively lifts, weaving together stories that feel fated to collide in spectacular fashion. At Society, Devon Hamilton's relief over Dominic's apparent adaptability slightly masks the fermentation churning beneath the face. Seeing his son laughing, putatively untouched by the cerebral games Mariah played, should have brought peace. Rather, it heightens the wrathfulness stewing within him and Abby. They love Mariah. She has been family. But love doesn't abolish the image of their child being manipulated, allured with pledges of a trip to Mexico, and entangled in a dangerous fantasy. Devon confides in Nate Hastings that while Dom may appear fine, the longer Mariah walks free, the harder it becomes to suppress the fear that commodity inside her has unnaturally broken. Nate, ever the voice of measured reason, reminds Devon that internal illness can underpinning perception and intent, that not all dangerous acts stem from malignancy. Yet indeed he seems unsettled by how fleetly Mariah was released. Devon questions whether the judge truly understood the graveness of what happened. The idea that Mariah could be battling demons she slightly comprehends while moving freely around city gnaws at him. Captivity feels harsh. A psychiatric installation feels more applicable. But either way, he struggles with the study of her facing Dominic again. Their discussion shifts to Lily Winters, whose unexplained absence now feels less like a gym retreat and more like a warning sign. Weeks without contact is unlike her. Devon's instincts, infrequently wrong, begin to flash red. Meanwhile, in Chancellor Park, Mariah Copeland attempts to reclaim some semblance of normality by meeting Christine Williams at the Café. The setting, bright and public, only amplifies Mariah's anxiety. Every passerby feels like a judge. Christine, regular and defensive of her customer's legal strategy, gently but forcefully warns Mariah that emotional gestures, like visiting Devon and Abby to apologize, could peril their defense. Mariah insists she demanded them to know she no way intended detriment, that Dominic was no way truly in peril. Her guilt is raw, undressed. But sincerity doesn't align neatly with courtroom tactics. A speedy trial looms coming month, and to Mariah, that feels like an eternity suspended over an ocean. The scene heights when Abby arrives with Dominic. The child, blissfully ignorant of adult complications, bounds toward Mariah, pertaining to her as his hide-and-seek friend and apologizing for getting tired during their game. The innocence in his voice is ruinous. Mariah drops to her knees, voice pulsing as she apologizes for taking him down from his parents. Before the fragile exchange can consolidate, Abby intervenes. She sends Dominic to another table and confronts Christine, her fury stoned by motherly instinct. How can Mariah be allowed to wander into public spaces where children gather? Abby's fear is palpable. She cannot attune the woman she formerly trusted with the unpredictability she now sees. The battle underscores the emotional schism dividing what was formerly an unbreakable chosen family. Across city at Crimson Lights, Nikki Newman shares a tense moment with her grandson Noah, both upset about Nick's unexplained exposure following a heated battle. Sharon joins them, expressing concern over the pain Nick has been carrying, both physical and emotional. When Nick suddenly strides in, appearing amped and claiming to feel fine, the relief is short-lived. Sharon's trained eye notices commodity out in his meter, a subtle twitch beneath the face. Nick casually reveals he set up one of his pain capsules and now feels restored. The admission lands heavily. Given his history and the underpinning stress involving Phyllis, Victor, and the raising family drama, Sharon senses a dangerous line. Nicky, meanwhile, is preoccupied with Victor's silence. His not answering calls, not responding to dispatches. For a man who thrives on control, evaporating suggests a calculated move, or a reckless bone. The discussion inescapably turns to Phyllis Summers. Nicky's misprision is undisguised. She believes rapacity has transcended every redeeming particularity Phyllis formerly held. Nick defends Phyllis only slightly, admitting her brilliance as a mimar but confessing he may no way forgive her recent backstabbings. The hostage fire she endured seems to have unmoored her, twisting her ambition into commodity sharp. When Nicky departs, Sharon presses Nick about his drug. His asseveration on securing another round, combined with the odd shift in his voice and address, deepens her alarm. After he leaves, she confides in Noah that commodity is wrong. Nick didn't look like a man relieved of pain. He looked like someone masking it. At the Newman ranch, pressure tightens like a curled spring. Victoria, Adam, and Chelsea grapple with Victor's exposure. The primogenitor's absence leaves a vacuum no bone can comfortably fill. Victoria fears her father is on the point, emotionally unpredictable and able of retaliatory conduct that could scorch the entire family. Adam, torn between fidelity and dubitation, hopes Victor exercises restraint but admits that stopgap feels naive. The specter of Phyllis' unforeseen silence compensates their apprehension. Could their discoveries be linked? Victoria, ever strategic, unveils a ruthless plan target the people Phyllis and Billy love. However, it'll strike at Phyllis' heart if they can sway Summer to their side. Chelsea balks at weaponizing family bonds, advising that similar tactics could induce contributory damage insolvable to undo. But Victoria's resoluteness is steely. She believes emotional influence is the only language their adversaries understand. When Nicky arrives, visibly shaken by Victor's evaporating act, Mama and son partake a rare moment of vulnerability. Nicky doubts the wisdom of raising matters further, but Victoria assures her she has everything under control. The irony hangs thick in the air. In Genoa City, control is always in vision. Away at the GCAC, Adam's agitation manifests in the violent pecking of his regale. Chelsea recognizes the reflective sign of anxiety. Adam admits his concern isn't solely about Victor, it's about the opaque deal Victor struck with Lily before she faded. He fears the bargain will demand a immolation, and experience tells him he'll be the one left paying the price. Chelsea urges him not to catastrophize, but Adam's instincts are infrequently unsupported. The Newman heritage is erected on power plays, and every alliance carries a retired cost. As the occasion barrels toward its suspensus, the narrative vestments strain. Devon and Nate resolve to pursue a lead regarding Lily's whereabouts, understanding that in their world, detention can be deadly. Abby, though defensive and bent, supports their charge, family safety over all. Phyllis' fury erupts in a nipping protestation aimed at Daniel Romalotti Jr., signaling fractures indeed within her inner circle. And in a final jolt, Victor reveals that Matt Clark, lately released, has dissolved. Nick's alarm is immediate and visceral. The possibility that a dangerous man could be lurking anywhere including the estate, reignites old traumas. The sense of history repeating itself is suffocating. This occasion consummately balances cerebral pressure with domestic heartache. Mariah's unraveling forces observers to defy the fragile boundary between illness and responsibility. Nick's lozenge-convinced bravado hints at a relapse that could helical disastrously. Victoria's unethical scheme underscores how power struggles immortalize generational injuries. And Victor's exposure casts a long, portentous shadow, reminding everyone that when the Newman primogenitor moves in silence, the fallout is infrequently contained. In classic fashion, The Young and the Restless delivers a shade of cutting heads that promise seismic consequences. Genoa City stands on unstable ground, And as commitment are tested and adversaries circle, one verity becomes inarguable: the calm before the storm has formally passed. As the pressure reverberates through Genoa City, the emotional foreshocks of Victor's exposure and Lily's unsettling silence begin to reshape every relationship in subtle and explosive ways. On the young and the restless, heads are no way insulated events. They're catalysts, exposing old fractures and creating new fault lines that ripple across generations. Devon cannot shake the eating instinct that commodity is deeply wrong with Lily's absence. His original attempt to explain it, assuming she demanded time down after months of commercial warfare, now feels dangerously naive. Lily Winters has always been fiercely communicative, especially with family. Weeks of silence isn't tone care. It's a red flag. When Devon and Nate begin retracing her last given movements, the details grow murkier. Lily had meetings listed, calls unanswered, and an abrupt halt to all digital exertion. Devon's defensive instincts shift from stewing solicitude to focused determination. He has lost too important in his life, his father, his stability at times, pieces of himself, to accept the possibility of losing his family to another unseen trouble. Nate, balancing empathy with clinical perfection, tries to temper Devon's raising fear. He reminds him that enterprise can helical into paranoia. But intimately, indeed, Nate feels the dread. The timing is too suspicious. Victor's uncommunicative deal with Lily before she dissolved adds a portentous subcast. What exactly did Victor promise? Or demand? The Newman primogenitor has a long history of orchestrating issues behind the scenes, justifying contributory damage as necessary for the lesser good. However, the consequences could be ruinous if Lily came entangled in one of his strategic ruses. Meanwhile, Abby finds herself caught between fury and fear. Her battle with Mariah in Chancellor Park lingers in her mind long after she returns home. Seeing Dominic interact so innocently with Mariah tore at her heart. Abby remembers the woman who stood by her during surrogacy struggles, who formerly represented unwavering fidelity. Now, that memory competes with the image of Mariah manipulating her son, spinning fantasies about Mexico, and constructing a distorted reality where she believed she was guarding him. Abby's wrathfulness stems not only from what happened but from the treason of trust. She cannot attune the friend she loved with the insecurity she witnessed. Christine attempts to guide Mariah through the legal maze with chastened focus. A speedy trial is a strategic move, precluding prolonged enterprise and limiting the execution's capability to make a ruinous narrative. Yet Mariah's emotional impulses hang to undermine everything. She's tortured by guilt, replaying every decision that led to Dominic's junking. In her shattered state, she authentically believed she was delivering him from an imagined trouble. That vision, now sorrowfully clear, horrifies her. The consummation that internal illness commandeered her judgment is both a defense and a curse. She must defy the possibility that she cannot completely trust her own mind. Sharon, watching these events unfold, carries her own burden of recognition. She sees echoes of her once struggles in Mariah's unraveling, the blurred lines between reality and fear, the suffocating weight of undressed trauma. Sharon's compassion clashes with her fidelity to Abby and Devon. She wants justice, but she also wants mending. The legal system, still, isn't designed for nuanced mercy. As Christine builds her case around lowered capacity, the city debates whether Mariah deserves treatment or discipline. In Genoa City, moral judgments are infrequently amicable. At Crimson Lights, the warmth of coffee and familiarity cannot mask the bite creeping into Sharon's heart regarding Nick. His unforeseen burst of energy after taking a pain lozenge alarms her further than his earlier discomfort. She has walked the path of dependence before, watched loved bones justify reliance under the guise of necessity. Nick insists he's in control, that he simply demanded relief. But Sharon hears the subtle guard in his tone. She notices the slight earthquake in his hands, the transitory glaze in his eyes. Pain operation can come a slippery pitch, especially for someone carrying emotional injuries as deep as Nick's. Nick's fermentation is multi-layered. His conflict with Phyllis gnaws at him. He loves her history, the participated recollections, the fierce intelligence that formerly inspired him. But he cannot ignore how power seems to have altered her precedences. Since her traumatic hostage fire, commodity hardened inside her. Ambition converted into preoccupation. Nick feels betrayed, not just by her business pushes but by her apparent incuriosity to the collateral damage foisted on their family. The lozenge offers temporary clarity, a false sense of immutability. Yet beneath that artificial calm, resentment and prostration poach. Nikki's solicitude about Victor intensifies by the hour. She knows her hubby better than any